Today I'm comparing the Redmi Note 9 Pro to the Realme 6 Pro, and these are two awesome devices that come in under £300 here in the UK. So first I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison, and then at the end we're going to do a bit of a camera shootout, because a shootout is a shootout, like a Western. And this video was highly requested by you guys, that's why I'm making it. Are you ready? Let's go. So when it comes to the dimensions, the Redmi Note 9 Pro is slightly taller, wider and 1mm thinner than the Realme 6 Pro. With that said, the Realme 6 Pro is actually 7 grams lighter and has a 0.2% better screen to body ratio. And when it comes to build quality, both are built upon a plastic frame, but they both have Gorilla Glass 5 front and back. And both phones have dual SIM trays that support expandable memory. Both have a single firing downward speaker. And both devices have a favourite feature of mine, a headphone jack, which in my opinion makes up for the mono speakers. And if you want that 24-bit 192kHz full high-res audio experience with no latency issues, you can still get that via a wire. And another similarity here between the two devices is that they both have side-mounted fingerprint readers. And are you ready to see which one's faster? Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Now let's compare the displays. Both the Realme 6 Pro and the Redmi Note 9 Pro have Full HD Plus IPS panels, and on the face of things the Redmi Note 9 has an ever so slightly bigger display at 6.67 inches, and that is 0.07 inches bigger on the diagonal than the Realme 6 Pro, and it is noticeable. With that said, the Realme 6 Pro is slightly more pixel dense at 399 pixels per inch, and here is a definite win for the Realme 6 Pro. This phone has a 90Hz refresh rate screen. And of course this is a great feature, it makes everything faster and smoother on the display, but it will consume a bit more power. And that takes me nicely on to the battery comparison. So in this area, it's a big win for the Redmi Note 9 Pro. It has a gigantic 5020 mAh battery, and that's bigger than most of the flagships available today. And Xiaomi have thrown in an 18-watt fast charger in the box, which is good and it is fast. Now, whilst the Realme 6 Pro doesn't have a battery as big as the Note 9 Pro, it still has a 4300 mAh battery, which is still huge. But what's really impressive here is the 30-watt VOOC 4.0 charger in the box. And this charger can fully charge the Realme 6 Pro in just 57 minutes. So no matter which one of these devices you pick up, you will have the power. Now let's talk about what these devices have under the hood. Both phones are rocking the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G 8nm system on chip, and for those of you who don't know, Qualcomm make the industry leading smartphone chipsets, and the Snapdragon 720G has been geared for the mid-tier, and it's a perfect chip for gaming. So both devices have the same chip, they have the same UFS 2.1 ROM, they have the same LPDDR4X RAM, except the Realme 6 Pro has 2GB more RAM. And I ran the Antutu benchmark on both of these devices. Do you want to see how they did? So when it comes to the Antutu results, the Redmi Note 9 Pro came in with a score of 276,809, which places it at 52nd in the overall rankings. The Realme 6 Pro ranked in 3 places ahead at 49th. And I think that 8GB of RAM made the difference here and gave it the extra firepower it needed to get the win over the Redmi. Now here's a small difference when it comes to connectivity. Both devices have NFC, and the Redmi Note 9 Pro has Bluetooth 5.0, which is fantastic. But the Realme 6 Pro has Bluetooth 5.1. So again, Realme has one-upped the Redmi, but don't count the Redmi Note 9 Pro out just yet. So the user interface on both phones are running on Android 10 with their own skins over the top. The Realme is running on Realme UI version 1, and the Redmi is running on Xiaomi's MIUI 11, which is about to be upgraded to MIUI 12 very soon. And when it comes to the Realme UI, it's quite close to stock Android with a few tweaks. However, there is some bloatware in here, for example this Yandex app, which quite honestly I'm never going to use. And then there's this weird Russian app, which I have no idea what it is. If any of you guys can read this, please let me know, because for all I know right now, this could be full of Russian curse words. Anyway, apart from that, the Realme UI is pretty clean. Now, MIUI 11. One major flaw, in my opinion, is the fact that it doesn't have an app tray. When you swipe up from the bottom, it just brings up a search, and honestly, I like to have an app tray. I'm not a big fan of putting things in folders, and in my opinion, the best solution for this right now is to download the Poco launcher, which is also made by Xiaomi, works perfectly with this phone, and you get your app tray back. Either that or you can wait for MIUI 12. So anyway, MIUI 11 works pretty smoothly. When it comes to bloatware, there is some in the form of Xiaomi's own apps and some preloaded games as well. One thing I'm not a fan of with MIUI is all these promoted apps that seem to pop up everywhere. So a word to the wise, if you're going to get one of these devices, you can and you should switch these off at the first opportunity. So make sure you do that. Okay, so I feel like I've been complaining a little bit now. Let's switch this video up a little bit, shall we?
I come here for a shootout, right? A proper shootout.
So when it comes to side-by-side specs, both have a 64 megapixel primary sensor. The Realme Note 9 Pro, however, has a slightly higher megapixel macro lens at 5 megapixels, and the Realme's macro lens is just 2 megapixels. Let's see what kind of difference that makes. Now when it comes to ultra wide, both have an 8 megapixel sensor. Let's see how they do. Now here's a significant difference between the two devices. The Redmi has a dedicated 2 megapixel depth sensor, which means it should have better portrait photography, and on the Realme 6 Pro, instead of the depth sensor, we have a 12 megapixel telephoto lens instead, so it should have a better zoom. Now when it comes to the selfie cameras, both devices have a 16 megapixel primary selfie shooter, but the Realme 6 Pro has an additional wide angle lens. So that's a one up there, and I'll let you guys be the judge of the selfie photos. And now, let's get into a little bit of a night shootout.
A shootout, right, is a shootout. Waka West.
So when it comes to the Redmi Note 9 Pro, it's taller, it's wider, it's thinner, it has a bigger battery, arguably a better macro lens and better portrait photos, and the Realme 6 Pro is lighter with ever so slightly more pixels and a 90Hz refresh rate screen. It's got a smaller battery but faster charging, and with a little bit more RAM and the extra selfie camera. And honestly guys, this might be one of the most closely contested comparisons I've ever made. I'm really interested to know which one you think is better. Let me know in one word, either Realme or Redmi, in the comments below as to which one you would pick if you could only pick one. Let me know which one won. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, you might like these thumbnails on screen right now that are related to these phones. And if you want to see a full camera comparison or speed test, let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to make it for you. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't be late.